Hey, physics students, Todd Burke here. We're going to do a little more trigonometry, the study of right triangles. Like I said before, math's fun, and this is just a skill. Trigonometry is a skill you're going to get familiar with, you're going to get good at. So we're going to run through another couple of problems. This time, we are going to talk about cosine. So last time we practiced with the function sine. There are three main functions in trigonometry: sine, cosine, and tangent. This time we'll do cosine. Like last time, you need to be familiar with the parts of a triangle. Everyone's in my class is familiar that the hypotenuse means the longest side of the triangle, which is also opposite the right angle. And these other two names, adjacent, opposite, they change around. It just depends on which angle you're referring to. So with respect to this one, we'll again say this angle theta is what we're going to build our problem around. For the first problem, we'll say we know angle theta is 22.6 degrees. Well, then this side on the far part of the triangle from it, on the other side of the triangle, is the opposite side. So here's angle theta. And for the purposes of these problems, the vertical side here is the opposite side. And we'll refer to this side on the bottom of this triangle as the adjacent side. It's attached to angle theta, so it's adjacent. And SOHCAHTOA will be our memory trick to remember which fraction has to do with which function. Remember, these are ratios, just like pi is a ratio of circumference to diameter in a circle. These are ratios, and they're known by your calculator, they're known by your phone, they're known by every computer, so they'll help us solve some problems. And that's why trigonometry is just a friendly tool. If we know some parts of this triangle, but not all, our calculator knows some of these relationships, these ratios, and then we can use that to help find the unknown we're seeking. So SOHCAHTOA, the SO part refers to the sine function, the CA part refers to the cosine function, and the TOA part of that phrase refers to the tangent function. SO is the opposite over adjacent, or opposite over hypotenuse. That's what that tells us. Sine of theta is the opposite over hypotenuse. TOA is just helping us understand which ratio, what math we have to do to find tangent. Tangent of theta is the opposite over adjacent. So the tangent of theta is the opposite side, length of it over the length of the adjacent side. We're going to do cosine. So SOHCAHTOA, this CA, spelled C-A-H, reminds us that the cosine of theta is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. That's it. So if we know the angle of 22.6 degrees, let's say we didn't know this side, but we don't know the adjacent side. Well, we can solve it with this simple math. We're going to first write down that the cosine of 22.6 degrees equals this unknown thing. Cosine is the adjacent, right? The length we're seeking is the length of the adjacent side over the length of the hypotenuse, which we do know. So there's our mathematical expression, and our hard work is done. Now we simply need to simplify it and then pull out the calculator. If we want to solve for x, we have to get it alone on one side of this equivalency. Right now, everything here on the left is equal to everything on the right. The cosine of 22.6 degrees, which is some decimal point, but the calculator knows, your phone knows, that's equal to x divided by 13. We're going to get x alone by canceling out this 13 from the denominator. So I'm going to multiply by a whole number. I'm not allowed to do this unless I do it to both sides, and then it doesn't really change the equivalency. But it does let me cancel this out. And now I have x all alone on this side of the equivalency. So I just now need to use my calculator and find out what is 6 times the cosine of 22.6 degrees. And when I do that, on my iPhone, I punch these numbers in backwards. I first take the number 22.6, and then I hit the cosine function. Remember, with your telephone, basically start open up the calculator mode, turn it sideways, and you get a whole lot more buttons, including the trig functions. So then I can hit the cosine button and I multiply by 13. And what I get is this equals 12.001. You should do that at home. Just confirm that I'm not making this stuff up, and it's that simple. If you have an Android phone, you can write them just from left to right, like you read them. You can put in the 13, hit the cosine button, enter in the number 22.6. There'll have been a parentheses open for you, and you can hit the close parentheses. Or I think most phones, you can just hit equals, and you'll get the same answer, 12.001, whatever it is. Okay. We'll do one more. We'll do this in the reverse. Let's pretend I don't know that angle. And we want to find out what the angle of theta is. So we're going to do another one. I recommend you do it on your calculator. Maybe pause this before I give my answer. So in this case, I'm going to write down the cosine of theta. Remember, I don't know that angle, so I'm just sticking a number in there. You could write the cosine of x if you hate this Greek alphabet stuff showing up in your math, which is reasonable. But so we have the cosine of this question mark, this unknown angle, equals, now we do know the sides, and we know that cosine, SOHCAHTOA, cosine equals the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So the length of the adjacent side, which is 12, over the length of the hypotenuse, which is 13. So I'm going to write that here. Cosine of theta equals 12 over 13. Now what I want to get alone on one side of the equal sign this time is the theta, it's the angle. So I somehow have to divide both sides by cosine. And what I'm going to do is divide it. To divide out, I need it in the denominator there. And my calculator knows how to do that for me. But that will allow this to cancel out. So now I have theta all alone on one side of the equal sign. And the trick again is you start by getting this decimal point. What is 12 divided by 13? Put that in your calculator. Then find the second function button. And hit that. This is just a button. And then now the trig functions will be written like this with a -1. And that's what that means. A negative exponent means now this is the inverse. So it's going to be 1 over cosine. And when you do that, you're going to find that the angle is 22.6 degrees. And you're done because you're a trigonometry genius. And you're one step closer to getting comfortable with these functions because you've been practicing a little bit. Good job.